On top of the battlefield, the attacks of Eclipse Moon and Sky Dragon pirates had already begun. The first person to strike was Jinguji Saikairo. He took out 10 talismans from his pocket and scattered them in the air before pinching a seal with his right hand. I command the gods, all Tathagata. The heavenly Dharma body, haste is the order of the day. The 10 white talismans raised a layer of white smoke in the air before transforming into 10 black hounds. This was a type of Shikigami that Zhang Yi had never seen before. They were as black as ink, giving off an evil and terrifying feeling. The 10 demonic hounds snarled and lunged towards Zhang Yi. Although Zhang Yi did not know what their abilities were, as long as the dimensional gate was opened, all their attacks would be reduced to nothing. In an instant, all 10 black demonic dogs were absorbed by Zhang Yi into his dimensional space. However, right at this moment, Zhang Yi saw the corner of Jinguji Saikairo's mouth raised. Interdimensional space. It can absorb everything, but there is a limit to the amount it can carry. One only needs to infuse it with more than the limited amount of energy to make it break. With the middle and index fingers of his right hand together, he placed them at his mouth and droned in a deep voice, "Extinguish." Zhang Yi sensed that in the middle of his interdimensional space, the 10 demonic dogs suddenly exploded violently as if they had sensed something. This was the self-exploding demon dogs, the special deity that Jinguji Saikairo had crafted in order to deal with Zhang Yi's dimensional space ability. Sensing the explosion in dimensional space, Zhang Yi was also somewhat moved. It was because the energy contained within these devil dogs was terrifying. At the same time, he was also clear about one thing. All of his own information had also been told to Eclipse Moon's people by the mole. This was a roundup targeting him. It was as if it was exactly the same as the previous roundup targeting Deng Shintong. Someone first wanted Deng Shintong to disappear from the Jiangnan region. There was also someone who wanted him, Zhang Yi, to disappear from the Jiangnan region. Zhang Yi's eyes were exceptionally cold, even more so than the snow and ice between heaven and earth at this time. However, after Jinguji Saikairo confidently used the self-destructing demon dog, he realized that Zhang Yi was not affected in any way. He took a few steps back in surprise. How is this possible? The detonation charm yield I used was the equivalent of a full 2 tons of TNT. With this kind of explosive equivalent, even a captain-level character would choose to dodge it rather than dare to prove opposing it. Could it be that the intelligence is wrong? Jinguji Saikairo's forehead left a rare drop of sweat. This kind of thing exceeded his expectations, and not being in the grasp of things made his heart begin to panic. Zhang Yi's eyes were as cold as the 10,000-year-old snow of the Arctic ice plains. Being betrayed made him feel incomparably angry. However, at the same time, his mind was exceptionally clear, not letting his emotions interfere with his judgment. Perhaps it was simply because he had seen too many distortions of human nature in the midst of the end times, so even after being betrayed, he seemed to be somewhat used to it. Good thing, I hit it deep enough. Zhang Yi lamented so in his heart. The opponent had misjudged his strength, and the prepared attack was not sufficient. And here, this is my home ground. Today, I would like to see who is the hunter and who is the prey. Zhang Yi opened a new communication channel as he whispered, "Do it." The Sky Dragon pirates and Eclipse Moon's people were planning to make their move and surround the Tengu squad that was unable to escape from within the drawing a prison. But just at this time, a violent explosion suddenly occurred where they were standing. Above the earth, shockwaves surged up into the sky, sending the bodies of many pirates high into the air. Right below their feet, hundreds of meters deep, there was a huge shelter covering tens of thousands of square meters and 3 floors. And the place where they were was called Chaoyu Harbor. This was an existence that could be called a military base after the end of the world, and Qin Jingwan had buried an unknown number of traps and explosives around the harbor. This was one of the hidden tricks that Zhang Yi had left behind. This is Tianhai City. I, Zhang Yi, will remind you that this is my home turf. Zhang Yi said coldly. The Sky Dragon pirates and Eclipse Moon's people were caught off guard. However, before they could stabilize their footing, a huge blizzard descended in the sky again, and the wind was so fierce that it disturbed people's vision. Phoenix Wren narrowed his eyes. Something's not right. And among the Sky Dragon pirates, a mutant in charge of scouting sensed the origin of these visions. He said to Kanuta in alarm, "Captain, a lot of enemies have suddenly appeared in the northeast, and also in the northwest." Kanuta said in a deep voice, "Where are the enemies coming from?" When they came to Tianhai City, they searched everywhere for the native inhabitants, wanting to rob them of their supplies. But in the end, they found nothing. Not a single living person was seen. Now, where did the large army come from? Those who came were no one else. It was the reinforcements from Yanqing Base and Qingpu Base. In addition, Uncle Yu and Fatty Su were also among the group. From the very beginning, Zhang Yi was worried that this battle would be too tough, so he had instructed the people from the major bases in advance. Once they started fighting, these people were to stand by nearby and wait for Zhang Yi's orders. After all, there was no such thing as the boss charging ahead while the little ones stayed at home doing nothing. Zhang Yi gave orders to Xiao Honglian and the others to be in charge of interfering with the line of sight here in the surroundings, causing chaos. However, they should not really approach the battlefield. Zhang Yi still had a number in his heart regarding their strength. Xiao Honglian led dozens of warriors to a high point. Fatty Su and Zhuge Qingting combined their efforts and used the storm and ice to create chaos and help Zhang Yi create a chance to get out of the trap. On the other hand, Uncle Yu was silently holding the GPW 2nd-generation anti-material sniper rifle given to him by Zhang Yi, and set up his gun at a high place to start sniping at the pirate crowd. Fatty Su said with some concern, "Boss won't let us get close, just this level of disturbance, will it work?" They didn't look like there were many of them, and even fewer of them actually possessed combat power. The number of mutants was even less than 10. There was no harm in bluffing a bit, but a real fight would not be enough. As expected, the explosion at Chaoyu Harbor only brought the Sky Dragon pirates and Eclipse Moon a brief moment of dismay. After they regained their senses, they realized that the enemy that suddenly appeared was not Blizzard City's reinforcements, but rather the original inhabitants of Tianhai City. This immediately settled their hearts. Kanuta sneered, "It's just some stray fish. Can't make any waves." Kanuta immediately arranged for a team to go forward to deal with Xiao Honglian, Xing Tian, and the other Tianhai City natives. He, on the other hand, brought his mutants with him, and together with the Eclipse Moon organization, he intended to take out Zhang Yi and the others within the prison cage first. However, under the cover of the blizzard, no one could see what Zhang Yi was doing. He took a deep breath, already knowing in his heart that the time to fight for his life was now. The enemy he faced this time was not that easy to deal with. Luckily, I've never exposed my true trump card either. Zhang Yi stood in the center of the cage, his hands clasped into a ball in the air, and a black lightning bolt suddenly began to coalesce in the middle of his palms. Crackle! The lightning was getting more and more thick, and the bizarre and twisted power seemed like a small black snake was swimming. That terrifying power caused the people around by Li Changqing and the others to widen their eyes and subconsciously take several steps back. Only Liang Yu and Flower and Yang Xinxin were the only ones who knew what this power was. A few people surrounded Zhang Yi to protect him, not tolerating anyone to come over and disturb him. The black unstable substance became denser and denser, coalescing into a huge black sphere in the middle of Zhang Yi's palm. Then as Zhang Yi's hands moved, it was slowly compressed by him and turned into a black void ball that was only the size of a volleyball. "All of you, get away from me!" Zhang Yi shouted. Everyone in the Tengu squad hurriedly got out of the way. Zhang Yi threw the void ball up high, then instantly activated his 20 times acceleration ability. His entire body jumped up to a height of more than 3 meters before his right fist ruthlessly slammed towards that ball of emptiness. Swoosh! The black void ball instantly cut through space and passed through that invisible cage, then flew straight towards Canute's direction. And at the same time, an early warning sprang up in Canute's heart, who was still deploying his troops, the instincts of a wild beast letting him know that danger was approaching. But he was too close to Zhang Yi, only less than 1,000 meters away. the misjudgment of Zhang Yi's strength in his heart made him choose not to dodge. Rather, it was a hard fight. The huge shark's mouth let out an ear-piercing scream. He attempted to block the attack with his huge and sturdy body. This was because behind him, there was still the drawing a prison caster, Chen Xiu, present. Zhang Yi gave a Kanuta an ominous glare as he watched the void spear racing through the sky and said, "Die." In the next moment, the entire space was enveloped by a dark sphere that suddenly rose from the earth. It was a giant orb with a radius of several hundred meters, emitting a terrifying power of destruction. Woo! A dull and miserable cry came out from amongst the void orb. Canute's huge body rushed up in an attempt to block the void orb ability and ruthlessly landed on the distant earth.